Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that's going to be a point of controversy. A lot of people are going to disagree with, but it's something that a lot of friends of mine who are also in the fitness world, they work with people with eating disorders and other stuff, point out that gets completely ignored because flexible dieting and if it fits your macros has become so popular. And everyone pushes this whole idea of orthorexia and all this nonsense. Here's the problem with it. They work off the concept that everything is fine in moderation. And I will agree that if you care only about body composition, right? You don't care about health, you don't care about cancer, you don't care about diabetes, heart disease. If this stuff is completely off your radar and all you care about is body composition, they're right for people who are capable of moderation. That your macros, your calories, all of that are what matters. That's what matters for fat loss, right? That's what matters for body composition. Although I will say that even body composition is not even true, it's purely the fat loss end. Because again, you are dealing with energy surplus versus energy deficit. Yeah, that will determine your body weight. And I think anyone who understands nutritional science will agree there, right? But food quality will impact body composition in the sense of recovery, muscle growth, performance. All these things are dependent upon food quality to some extent. So it will affect the muscle mass end of the equation, right? It will affect body composition. So, that aside, I'm making sure that people understand that I do agree with that position, at least fundamentally. The problem we have is that when it comes to the whole moderation thing, an enormous segment of the population are not capable of moderation. And I've seen, at least one expert in this area, a friend of mine named Brianna Thoreau, has said that it might only be around 40% of the population who are good at moderation. In other words, when you start looking at models for obesity, junk food, alcohol, drugs, all of these things, a small majority of people aren't good at moderating these things. This is why addiction exists, right? This is why addiction is so prevalent. When we're dealing with things that are at least psychologically or physically addictive, which can be alcohol, it could be junk foods, all these things, right? Pretty sizable chunk of the population can't moderate. And if you can't moderate, you probably need to abstain for the most part. And I'm not saying in a rare special occasion they can't partake, but they have to moderate. And they can only get away with these things in specific social environments, right, to where they'll be judged potentially if they can't moderate. Okay, and there's a difference there between doing that versus doing it at home. I would personally make the argument that the majority of people are better off abstaining completely from things like alcohol, completely from junk food, barring a rare special occasion, and that doesn't mean every Friday night. People need to understand the difference. Right, there's a difference. Social occasion means a holiday. Sorry, Brits, your version of the holiday. We're using the American word. Christmas, Easter, the 4th of July. These special events, maybe a wedding. Okay, these are what we refer to as special events. That outside of that context, most people can't moderate. And if they could, let's look at it another way. Everyone knows that excessive food, at least if they don't understand that it's calories, even though it really is, if they don't understand that, most people know that eating excessive junk food is what's going to make them fat. They know this. Yet a third of Americans are pre-diabetic, 11% are fully diabetic. The majority of people in America are now obese. Everyone knows they should be moderating all the junk. They know that. Almost everyone, very, very few exceptions, almost everyone knows that. Yet these problems still exist, and it's a growing, enormous problem. So what does that tell you about the moderation model? Okay, what does that tell you about it? They really can't moderate. They know they should, and the people who flexible diet say, well, we give them the tools to have the numbers. Yeah, you're giving them the tools to have the numbers, so what? Doesn't mean that they're going to be capable of using them. They can't use them already. They already know they should be moderating these foods, yet they eat them every day. Sometimes 2 times a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, they're eating all the garbage. When they already know they should moderate. It doesn't work for most people, and the problem is that because around 40% of the population are capable of moderating, you'll have all these success stories, right? You have tens of thousands of success stories. How many of those success stories, though, were previously really obese people? All right. I don't think the majority are. Very, very few of them were. Most obese people just live healthy lifestyles and largely avoid junk food. People who were really, really obese and got in shape, they generally avoid it. Okay, there's a difference. Just like the one of the more successful models for dealing with alcoholism is to abstain. It's to abstain. And aren't we dealing with the same thing? If a person's ever been so morbidly obese that they were more than 50 pounds overweight, are we going to argue they didn't have an addiction? Isn't that what addiction is? Eating so much junk food that you gained so much body weight that it made you unhappy, uncomfortable, hurt your health, hurt your quality of life, yet you couldn't stop. That's a junk food addiction. And I think anyone who's been at that body weight, we can classify it in that category. It's an addiction. We've discussed addiction models with these foods. Scientists have. They are a legitimate addiction issue. But again, we come back to that point with these people because that 40% of people can avoid the addiction component because they can moderate, but look at all these success stories. Yeah, but it's not going to work for everyone. I'd argue that for the majority, almost 2/3 of people, it's probably not going to work. Okay, it's not a viable strategy. And if you don't know which category you fall in, all right, it's hard to understand that. It's like people will look and say, well, how come this is working for these people, but I binge every time I eat this stuff? Exactly. Because you're not in that 40% who are built to moderate. You're not in that 40%. Our solution there is to just avoid garbage. It's not, most of it's not even really food anyways. We as a society have decided it's food. It's not food. It's not food. Your cupcakes, your milkshake, your Coca-Cola, so on and so forth. It's just garbage. It tastes really, really, really good. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.